Chatterbox. The first time I heard the word, I was in primary school. A moniker given to someone who talks way too much and subsequently gets sent to the office a lot. Fast forward a few years and that person is being paid to speak. Go figure. I'm Andrea Oliver, and on this edition of LkldNow in View, we get to talk with someone who is paid to speak. Let's see if we can find out if he was also a chatterbox in school. My guest today is Kevin Cook. Kevin is the Director of Communication for the City of Lakeland. Actually, Kevin, you've been serving the City of Lakeland for quite some time.
Yes, 27 years.
Wow. At one point, you were at the RP Funding Center.
Correct. Then it was the Lakeland Center
Yes.
with the orange linoleum and the orange seats. It's had quite a few facelifts since then.
It was since then. Well, I know that you've continued to, as we mentioned, serve the community. You sit on several boards. You have been a graduate of Leadership Lakeland.
That is correct.
And have really been what we call a spokesperson for the City of Lakeland. Now, yes, we know that that job is more than just speaking for the city. How would you define your job as spokesperson?
Well, it's a lot more than just a spokesperson. So yeah, the chatterbox that you referenced at the beginning of the segment, yes, I was that guy as well. But in our position as the Director of Communications and communicating for the City of Lakeland, of course, we have a number of media channels. And we've seen that change and shift when, I was the very first PIO for the City of Lakeland and was blessed to get that position. In 2001, I came over from what was the Lakeland Center, which is now the RP Funding Center. And at that point in time, it was a heavy written word, a lot of newsletters and things of that nature. And when I've seen that shift go from the written word and a paper-dominated communication tactic to more of a digital communication tactic. But as the Director of Communications, I oversee government access television, our web properties, our social media, all the PR for the City of Lakeland, all the advertising for the City of Lakeland, so it's quite a job.
I can imagine that somebody who has dubbed himself a chatterbox would probably have a preference as to which one of the jobs he likes doing more. Do you? And can we guess?
Sure. Guess. Which one do you think it is?
Maybe talking to the media.
That is my number one. You're right.
Here you are. Now, has it been hard then to embrace all of what this job entails and the other factors? And how have you been able to balance exactly what you do, the talking with the writing and the directing and the leading?
Right.
How have you been able to manage all of that?
Well, it's a dynamic environment, and no day is the same, and that's one thing that I really love about my job, the fact that every day is different, so you don't have the monotony. I've kind of, again, you're going to hear me say blessed a lot. I'm kind of blessed because I was the first person that came in as a PIO, and at the time there was a city manager, Doug Thomas, and I talked him into, we need to have a communications department, a centralized communications department. And we didn't have government access television. We didn't have a lot of things that were available to us. We just weren't utilizing them. Right. So I saw that and really developed it, and I kind of grew with the position, so I don't know anything else.
What's been interesting is that I'd like to think that you work for a city and work in a city where we've been relatively problem-free. Relatively. We've had some little hiccups here and there. When you look back on the job you've done, look back on how you've had to posture yourself as spokesperson and portray the city, have there been some things you go, I dodged the bullet, man, this was a toughie?
Yes, 2013, and we didn't really dodge a bullet. There were a lot of issues in the news and in the media at that point in time regarding the police department, and that was about a 6-month window of a lot of work, and there was no dodging bullets. I felt like I was getting sprayed at all times, and it was an interesting time.
And I'm sure that you know that the more we try to hide a thing, the more we try to pretend it's not happening or soft soaping it, it's the more it's going to a life of its own. So as you approach that particular challenge, what did you decide, Kevin, as spokesperson for the city, head on, and in how you had to tackle that?
Well, that's a great question, and my mantra and strategy is always tell the truth and lay it all out there. And then you may take a few hiccups, or you get beat up for a day or two, but it's over with. That's the way I like to handle things. I certainly, and I'm blessed that we've had city management that have had the same strategy and the same thought process, that we just lay it all out there, tell the truth, and then take your lumps.
Kevin Cook is our guest today. He is the Director of Communications for the City of Lakeland. And Kevin, I know that there are times when you're called to give information,
Sure.
and the information is not coming to you full force, or you're being asked to pull back on that. How have been some of those cases, some of those scenarios for you, and what is it you tell yourself to be able to do the job you're paid to do?
Well, one thing is you got to wear your big boy pants in this position. So you do have people above your pay grade that you do have to take orders from. Again, I'm able to instill our strategy and our thought process of let's tell everything and take your lumps again. However, there are times when the media will call and I won't know everything, and you've got to go try to, and that's the one thing, if I can say, the one thing I dislike about the position is you've got to be an expert in everything. And
are you an expert in dodging bullets?
No, I don't know about that, but with a city like ours, we have a lot of services and we have a lot of departments, and you've got to know what's going on in each one of those departments. And I may not know all the details, and that's one of the things that everything that I do, it's when the media calls and they catch me off guard and I don't know what's going on, and I've got to call a department and go, hey, what is this? The media called, and then they, oh yeah, let me fill you in.
Well, transparency is clearly key
True.
in what you do. And I think that you've postured yourself, you've developed such a relationship with people in the media locally that if you say, you know what, I really don't know, let me check back. I think just like what you said moments ago, the fact that you believe in coming with the truth,
Right.
then there's that level of grace. What happens, Kevin, when you know that you have information you cannot share and you really have to lay low?
What happens? I take my orders. So if I'm told this is something that's maybe surfacing, and you need to, we need to let the city commission know first. And that's the other thing. I have a boss. I report directly to the city manager. Well, he's got 7 bosses, the city commission, and that's a delicate balance. And we have to inform them first. We try to, and sometimes you're told that even when the media calls, we got to let the city commission know first.
Everybody can look back, on their career and go, no, that was an absolutely terrible day. That was a horror day.
Yeah.
It wasn't working,
Right.
and I just want to go hide somewhere. Anything pops up in your mind when you think about that, or hopefully you haven't had too many of those?
No, I've really haven't. The one day that was probably the horrible day is we had an officer get killed, Officer Crispin.
Yes.
And that was a horrible day.
And as I recall, with that particular situation, it had been many, many, many years prior before we even had in the county an officer who had passed away, and so handling all of that. How do you approach that grief? How do you approach disseminating that information and dealing with your department, plus dealing with the members of the public?
Well, for that particular situation, the one thing is we needed to inform the community that everything was okay, because there are cops everywhere.
Yes.
We have a suspect. We think we know who he is, and we're on the lookout for them. So there's some pertinent information that you have to get to the public. And the other thing is you have to reassure the public that we've got the situation under control. Yes, we have an officer that's been shot, but even though we've got all these police officers running around your neighborhood, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Do you ever go home, take everything off, get your bubble bath, and go?
I'm not a bubble bath guy, but
But no. Do you ever just decide, I'm done with this. I don't want to do this. I'm just gonna go be a sheep farmer somewhere in Kentucky.
No, I don't. And it's interesting. There's a reporter that used to work for the Ledger. His name is Rick Russo. I don't, and he was a long-term reporter. And he once told me, he says, "I've never seen anyone in my life that can just turn it off like you do."
Wow.
And I do. I turn it off. I don't talk about it when I get home from work. I don't share things with my wife or my kids or what's going on with work. Because truthfully, I try to be a good husband and listen to my wife's issues, because she's also she's in the school system, and she's and she's one of those that she likes to talk about things, and it helps her process. So I try to be that guy. And same thing with my children. I just don't go home, and I don't take things home.
I know this has been, and we've been talking about it.
I try not to take things
You
home.
try not to take things home. It has been a difficult year.
Yeah.
And if there was ever going to be a year when you would take things home, it would be this year. You're having to put information out from your leaders, from your city government about a year that has us all baffled. We are faced with a mask ordinance, for example,
Sure.
currently in the city of Lakeland that goes through September 8th.
Right.
And you've had to, I don't know, are you finessing the information? How are you handling how you share what you share and what you want the public to know?
Well, we have a really good team at the City of Lakeland in the communications department. We have someone that just oversees social media, and it's really funny. I not to shift the question, but it's amazing to me how people communicate nowadays. Like today, I was on social media, and people contact us like they're contacting 911 through social media, through direct messaging. So we've seen a shift. And this has to be the most contentious time I've ever experienced in 27 years, whether it's political, whether it's you believe in masks, you don't believe in masks, infringing on civil liberties, things of that nature. I have never experienced such hateful discourse. Positivity rates in testing has started to go down. We've seen numbers start to go down. So the issue with communicating in today's world, we try to do it on all media channels, because we don't know. You may prefer to receive something in a text or a tweet, and someone else may prefer to see something on Facebook and our next door, things of that nature. So we just try to use all media channels.
How do you keep sane? I know you say you go home, you turn it off, you listen to your wife. By the way, that's a recipe for success. Always. Yeah, listen to your wife. But how do you actually turn it off?
Well,
and what would you do?
Like you, I love to work out. I'm addicted to spin class. I go to spin. I'm missing spin class tonight to be with you.
I'm so glad.
I try to exercise and work out. I have other hobbies as well, but it's really, that's the decompression on the way home. I stop at the gym and I go to spin class, and then by the time I get home, I'm a sweaty, frothy mess, and the days, the problems of the day are gone.
Well, we're glad we get to own you, Mr. Sweaty Frothy Mess, and that you're representing us and representing the city very well. Thank you so very much for being here.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for joining us. Next week, we're going to be tackling the delicate issue of race and equality. We have Shanique Davis, a teacher, a singer, a musician, and an artist, who's been using her art to bring and draw attention to this issue. We hope you'll join us then. Till then, stay safe. I'm Andrea Oliver for LkldNow in View.